the third talk is going to be about the resynthesis, so additive analysis and resynthesis. So starting from a wave, so sample you have, and having what you need to recreate it, but not by playing the sample, but by playing the analysis of it. And so that's something you already know, which is in the continuum. That is Mahaling phrases. So have you ever? And so now you can do your own. So that's a work I'm working on for quite a while, and that's heavily based on some previous work from Lippold and Kelly Fitz. This is just for a reminder. I'm not going to go through all of this, but these are a set of useful inputs that if you are interested in it, I recommend you walk through. There's a Max MSP tutorial on FFTs. If you are not familiar with FFTs, it's really well done. It's not too complicated to understand. It's a bit long because it's 5 videos, but really well done. If you don't know anything at all about Fourier transform, just check that YouTube channel from one brown, 3 blue, or something like this. But it's a genius presentation of what Fourier is, and really a cool way to understand how it works. There is no math inside, even so it's describing something which is heavily deep in the mathematics side. Of course, there is the input from Kelly Fitz and Lippold. So what I'm showing here is just a little piece of paper I've added on the huge work done by others. So really relying on Kelly and Lippold work. And the software base I'm using is Loris, so also something that was designed by Lippold and Loris, and mainly made it real time and took it so I can take all the analysis and send them directly to the continuum. So what are we talking about here? I had tried to design a little bit what it is. So we have analysis. So we start with an audio sample, that can be any audio sample. Usually when you go to Fourier, the first thing you're going to go is apply some windows. Usually you have some 2 overlapping windows, so they are evolving over the time. And you are going to do one Fourier analysis for each of these small signals. So that's going to be a few milliseconds of audio, it's a very short ones, and you have plenty of them. So first you just cut your audio in small pieces, and then you do the analysis, and each analysis for each of these kind of grains, in fact, it's very similar to what you have with grain, is going to give you all the partials, which is in fact all the frequency which are inside this small grain. When you usually use, because in fact you already are using, most of you, these kind of things. For example, when you are doing time stretching in your DAW, that's a principle. But what they do is they go there and then they manipulate separately each analysis and go the way around back. So from one analysis, regenerate every single grain, add them, and get back to a new signal, or the original one. What we want to do with a continuum is not recreating exactly the same thing, but keep all this evolution over time of the spectrum, so of all the partials, and track them. So identifying that this partial, this one is in fact the same, and that that it has an evolution. So the pitch may change, mainly the pitch and the level of each of them is going to be able to change. So there's a mechanism in Loris named reassignment and pitch tracking, which then can give you, instead of having just the content of one grain, there's an evolution of each of the partial over time. And so since we have for each partial, so its level, its frequency, we can then drive a set of oscillator, which are just very simple sine oscillator, and sum them, and you will get something which is very, very close to the original signal. But the very good thing is that Here we have a set of oscillator, and so that's synthesis. That's what you want to have when you do synthesis. Meaning if you want to change anything, change the frequency, spread them, make whatever change you want to do, you have a total control over them, which would not be possible when you go the way around, like on those when doing time stretching, when you're just putting things back from the analysis to the grain and to the audio. So that's the first very basic principle, not basic, but principle. Another thing also we do have in the Continuum and in Loris is that, so you see, we reconstruct the sound using a set of oscillator and a set of partial. If you take a noise, a white noise, it's an infinite set of frequencies. So if you want to recreate this, that's going to be an infinite set of partials, meaning that you will run out of oscillators. Therefore, within Loris, in the analysis, instead of just getting one frequency, we get that frequency plus a bandwidth around that frequency of noise. So we have two information, the frequency itself, the level of the frequency, plus an additional noise that is going to be used at the end. Meaning that whenever you have such a complicated sound as noise, in fact, you will still be able to reproduce them with Resynthesis engine we have there.
And to clarify, this is new things that he's worked on. The Malling phrase does not have this noise stuff. It just happened to work pretty well without it. And it takes about 80 partials, or 80 sine waves in a sense, quite good. But a lot of sounds don't. They really are too windy or too, in some other ways, need this noise.
Another thing which is important, and that's important for what we're doing, but that would be also important for sampler, and most of them don't do this, is the formant. So when you speak, if you say A or O or E, that's different formant, and the formant is stable. If you change the note, the formant is always the same. So the formant is that kind of shape you are having here, which gives you more or less the amplitude of all the frequencies, the partials you have. If you when you take a chant sample, if you pitch shift this, everything is slided. So like you would see here, it should have been extended to this by transposing everything. But that will give you what we call, I will show it to you, the chipmunk effect. So being that very bizarre voice you have when you pitch shift. And that's also one of the reasons for most samplers, when you pitch shift one sample, it goes crazy. It doesn't sound like the original one. So samplers are quite bad at changing the pitch widely. Small range are okay, wide is not good. So one thing which is happening is that we are doing an analysis of the formant, and when we pitch shift anything, we reapply the formant. Meaning, so the black lines here or what it should have been after transpose, and then so you see we add that brown one here, which are complementary levels which are added to every partial. So that's also one other addition that we do have in Loris and within the Continuum, and that's hugely important, specifically for a voice or pitch sounds. If you go to machinery or whatever noise, you don't really care about this. But if there is any pitch of an instrument, a guitar or a speaking voice, that's very, very critical. Oh, I have a set of points about the analysis. Pros and cons that you can find. So the first key points is one of the one I've already mentioned, is the fact that there's tracking of every partial. So it's not one set of partial and there's change between them. That's really a tracking, so an evolution of the frequency and the level of each of them. The fact that we have that ensemble frequency plus level plus bandwidth. I didn't talk much about the phase, however, it may be something important. But in the context we're using it, it's not that huge. There are some improvements we still can do, which are not done yet. But the fact that we are playing each sound makes that the phase is depending on your playing time and not on the analysis time you got. So don't know if it's clear, but anyway, when you play synthesizer, well, if you play a very long time and you move at any time between partials, you can't really control the phase as you would do in a simple grain. There's one thing which is important also. When you do an analysis, you very often end up with a lot of partials. And we have something named channelization, which is going to put back every single partial we have on natural partials. So natural partials is when you have a fundamental, for example, at 100 hertz, you will have all the natural partials being 200, 300, 500, so by 100 each time. So we try to gather the partials together to put them around the natural partials, but still having the pitch tracking. There's one thing now, so low-risk is now real time, which was not possible at the beginning, meaning that you really can play any analysis with a crazy number of partials directly on the computer. And so when you want to go to the continuum, you need to reduce the set of partials to 64. That's the number of partials that are sent to the continuum, even if it can do 90. But basically, to keep things working, we need to stay within 64. It's just a MIDI file, which is generated here from the tool, and that you will upload to the continuum. So 64 partials that you can put in 10 user analysis. Each user analysis is divided in what we call slots. So it's 512 slots of any length you want to have. But of course, if you have very long slots, they would be less accurate than if you had small ones. Basically, usually we take something like 4 millisecond slots, which is going to give you about 2 seconds of analysis for each. But if you want to get 10 seconds or just stay in a half a second, you can tune all of this. So format management, I mentioned it. This is the noise management, and you will see that the way we manage the noise is interesting because it's not a pre-generated noise, so you can feed the engine with whatever noise you want, or something which is also different from a noise. In the continuum, there's an interesting thing also, which is allowing you to remove any deviation from the reference frequency, meaning if you sing and you have several notes in your singing, you can ask the continuum to keep every sound on the same pitch, which is very useful when we want to play. You want to avoid to and so that's a nice point. You can manage a number of partials you want to replay. You can manage the space between partials. So a lot of things can be managed. From the limitation, we can still mention the phase. We will improve it, especially for the attack time. There is no real way to solve the phase issue while playing live in any kind of situation. But that's not that drastic. You will hear it. That's still quite good, even with a full control over the phase, which you can't do when playing. So the 64 partials is obviously a limit, but not that bad. So you'll see when it comes to really being a limit. One thing you really need, the main one, in fact, you need to keep in mind is the last one. It's not we are not creating a sampler. We are creating here something that is building some sonic matter that you can manipulate. You can do whatever you want with it. And that also means that this is not going to work with any sample. So if you are going to take drums, for example, with very sharp attack, you will get a result. But since I was mentioning something like a min 4 millisecond slot time, 4 milliseconds for an attack is very long, so that's not good for drum. But still, that you have a result. If you like it, that's fine. But that's sound manipulation. That's not really faithful recreation of the original one. Other things like having a reverb. If you play a voice in a reverb is adding a lot of partials, and then you end up with 64, and the result is never faithful to the original. So you may also like it and say, okay, I'm going to use this as the base for my sound, but
to clarify, what you're saying is if your thing you're analyzing has reverb in it, it will, maybe they're musically interesting, but you'll get some bizarro results. Where, yeah, you can always add reverb afterwards when you're synthesizing, but if you try to analyze with reverb, you'll be surprised.
So we are going to go through some example, enough of complex stuff. Just listen to what it is. So the one, so this is the tool I'm using. It's not finalized yet. This is the very first attempt to simplify it. So it's still it still needs to be simplified much more. But that's kind of the minimal set of parameters I need when I do something. If I don't have any of this, there will be some situation I will not be able to face. You have twice more parameters in my original design, so this is a basic. We will just walk through them quickly. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, stupid question. What are we looking for? It's the future feature in EaganMatrix.
So, yeah, I should have explained this. This is a Max prototype. So all the Max is not doing the work. We have Loris underneath. So I developed in C code based on Loris some Max abstractions, and this Max, as for the editor of the matrix, is just doing the UI over it. So this is a tool that we will use to create the analysis in a MIDI file format and to send it to the Continuum. So that's an external tool. It could be also be included in the matrix at some point. For now, all the work is done externally. So the first thing, so here I have a set of samples, so it's a basic sample. So I can either open them from here, either drag and drop directly. So I have one here. One thing I like to do usually is normalize the sound because I need a minimum of level. Be aware that the level of the sound have consequences on the analysis. So sometimes you have bad result because the sound is too high level, and lowering the sound may help. Here I have to normalize at 0.5 or 0.9. So that's a way if your sound is not well normalized to do it. So this is the original sound. That's what we have. Here I can trigger the analysis from that array, and I have here in this array a set of parameters. There's a reset, and I just have 5. Basically, what I want to have at the end is a set of presets. Here I have 5 of them. The intention is not to explain people what there is underneath the preset, but people can select one. Try. If it's okay, they send it to a Continuum. If it's not okay, they try another preset. It's not that simple. There are added some stuff, but here, if I take the setting ones, I can also access the resolution and the width of the windows in hertz. I'm not going to dive in this, but in some situations that's helpful to have them. So I wanted to keep them. Probably most people won't use it, but that's interesting. So this is already the analysis, so the original. And so if I just play the analysis, no great difference, you see, and that's really, but at that point, I have quite a lot of partials, you see, it's 4,799. So I'm not going to be able to send this directly to the Continuum. One thing I'm going to do is to channelize this, put them inside the range of the natural partials. So that's what that channelized new. It's will not say it being new after, but there was a channelized in Loris, and there was some issues, so I did a new one. So that's a new one. Something which is very, very important, and that may be an issue if it doesn't work. I will. Sorry, that one. If I click here on fundamental, it's tracking. So you see here all the small diagram. So there are bars, but inside the computer, it's a linear line. This is the pitch, so it's saying that the median pitch is 220, the maximum is 224, and the minimum 200. And so that's good. I can have smaller slots for analyzing that. So that this is when you do analyze the reference frequency, you do it every so many seconds. So here it was, I started with every 40 milliseconds. I'm just going to raise it lower, just so you can see. And if I now press fundamental, you will see that underneath here now it's much more smooth. So you clearly see the fact that it was stable at the beginning, and then you have the modulation which is coming. If when you do this fundamental tracking, the result does not appear to be good or doesn't appear at all, your channelization will never work. So that I wanted to skip that step, but if I skip that step, there's a lot of situations where you will not be able to find a good channelization. So let's do the channelize now. So you see now I went from 4,000 more than over to 250. So yeah, I'm 50. I'm not happy. And if I play it, that's still not that far away from the original one. So we are pretty good here.
So can I insert a short?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the channelization here, the trick is to try to keep things that are the main harmonics, and then all the other things. Whether this makes total sense or not, what we try to do is then make that noise around those harmonics. So all those thousands of other guys were short little sinusoidal partials that were contributing, many of them contributing to noise. Well, we assume all of them were contributing to noise, and whatever the nearest harmonic is, just gets that amount of noise added to it. Well, sometimes it works really well. I suspect you tested this beforehand. Sometimes it does not work well. But yeah, it's a good example.
One thing here, I have extract format, which is something which is internally used for Loris. So I can extract the format and keep it to be played after. That also means that I can keep the format separated. So I could use a sound. I will memorize keep the format, and then load another one, do an analysis, and put the format of one to another one. So you can really mix the things afterwards, which you won't be able to do directly in the Continuum, but you can do it here on Loris.
We have only one note like here. Do you recognize where formants are?
Yeah, but in fact. You do it from that note. That means that your reference for the fundamental frequency is going to add some probably unwanted information inside your format, but that's still good. It's not a perfect exact format of the body you are playing it in. It's quite close and sufficiently close to the real format of the body of your instrument, so you can play it. But
well, and even there, a body, no actual instrument. Sort of mathematical simplification because it's all very, it's a complicated feedback system. So it actually works quite well. And if the formants really exist as a real thing and you really do have broadband input, those are two very large assumptions. But then a single note should actually give you a pretty good idea of the performance of the piece. And it actually works to the extent that any of it makes any sense. But you have to remember the whole performance model assumes like for speech, assumes no airflow and just holding your hand in front of your mouth touching page. There's a lot of zero acoustic stuff that is sort of ignored. But it's a good first level approximation. So yes, so it's just off of this one example, and it's always assuming the mouth shape, in the case of speech, or the instrument shape, is being excited by something that has a very broad band input, namely pulses. All bad assumptions, but it works pretty well. And so yeah, there's always these funny, does a trumpet have formants? There's always this weird question. What they're really asking is, does the model make any sense of the trumpet? And the answer is
Actually, I was thinking just of showing that you have a whole bunch of partials and in the fields transpose it. So how do you know which partials you
like in the beginning you had that
emphasize and which?
Yeah, so in the beginning you had the spectral envelope, you just keep the same spectral envelope. So whatever was near 200 hertz, whatever that amplitude was, stays at that amplitude of the shape. Does that make any sense?
This was a broadband signal, I guess.
Okay, so from here now, I'm happy with my 50 partials. That I know that the Continuum can play them. So I'm going here to say play channelize. So I say play because it's going to be first played by Loris, and I have it here. So this is a view of all the evolution of the partials. So you still see the fact that the reference frequency which is there start oscillating at some point. And now I have my analysis, so I can, so I play back and forth, but I really can now navigate. You hear here at the beginning, you hear that noise which is inside there. You really can hear the noise. So that's something you can play as a first sound source and stay on this. And of course, you can manipulate it by pitching up or down. Or down. Whatever you want. And so if I pitch it a little bit up, so it's, or even higher. So this is without formant, and this is with the formant correction. So you see it's quite a big difference because without formant, all the high frequency partials just stay very high. So it's much higher than a violin can usually be. So that's why you have that. Sorry. You really hear the difference. So that's the first try. Let's take another example. Take that one. So of course, when you're inside, you can here just select the part that you want to play. Let's try it with setting 2. So the original is. And see, analysis. I just did do in a row the original and the analysis. So, and you see, it was the analysis, so it was quite fast. I just clicked on the button and got the analysis. So, of course, if you take 15 minutes of sample, it's going to be long. So, the 15 minutes of sample to be analyzed will more work on the computer, but not on the Continuum. Same thing here. I can do a look at the fundamental. One thing I didn't show you that there's a small oscillator playing, so you can also check by here that you're on the proper pitch. It looks quite nice. I did the channelization. Oh, I have 118. Will extract the formant. One thing I didn't say is when you do channelization, there is always a set of partials that we don't know what to do with. They are not anywhere. So there's what I called here residue, some remaining stuff that you can also decide to remove them. And you see when I removed the residue, I'm now to 72. So that's a little bit over what we want to have, but not that far away. So we can try to see if with 72 and down to 64, So here, the number of partials I have at that as a tangent is here. I stay on my 4 millisecond window. So this is the result. I can play it. We'll put back the formant. Oh, this is okay. Not that bad. I'm missing a few partials, but they are the higher ones. Here I have a small tuner that I can, when I select the partial by label, that means I just take the first, the second, so there's the 64 first. And if I put energy, there is then a calculation which will only take the partial with the highest energy. So we may skip some of them if they're very quiet. Once you have done this, so you have it. I can show that. One thing I was mentioning, the chipmunk effect. So if I play, this is without formant correction, and if I remove it, this is the chipmunk effect. So you see, for a voice that's dramatic. If you don't apply the formant correction, it just sounds awful for, or you it with. So see, without, with. Yeah, much more natural. So you can really definitely transpose your analysis much better when you have that formant analysis. One thing here, you have a number from 1 to 10, which is the slot, the number of the additive set you want to send to the continuum. So that at that point you have to decide if you send it to the slot 1, slot 2, or up to 10. And when you're done with this, you just click to export to EaganMatrix. You will get a MIDI file. You just enter the name, and you get the MIDI file. I'm not going to do it because I would have to be quiet for 1 minute for the loading, but so this is now what has been sent. The exact one we've just done is now on the continuum. You can really say in the middle. So that's, in fact, that's the funny place. That's where you have some sound matter that you can manipulate. And that's just scrubbing. I'm just scrubbing, so it's no heavy manipulation yet. So that's what we have. We can do a lot of other ones. I don't know what time. In fact, I could present it for the full day, so I have a lot of inputs. After the presentation, if you want to be back to me and the discussion or show anything else, that's of course possible. One thing I like is that one. Okay, that's a paper cutting machine. I like this sound. Obviously, when you're going to do the analysis, okay,
You're French. You like guillotines.
Yeah. But here we have 16,000 partials, so there's no way we can downside this to 64. I have a specific trick here, which you see there's something named play row. This is going to cut this analysis so same thing in smooth slices, but instead of trying to track everything, it's just for every single slice it will only take the 64 louder partials, and there's another kind of tracking mechanism which is totally different from the lowest one. And I'm really fooling the EaganMatrix module, the additive bank here, but it works well. So if I do that play row, I'm going to. So you see there's a lot of partials all over. It's not the proper pitch, but. That's not that bad. If you look at what Loris is doing, in fact, Loris is here is playing 214 partial at the same time. So in the computer here, it's much more. That's not the 64. It's the, whatever you 500 up to about 1,000 is okay. So on the computer that's fine. But you won't have it on the matrix. I don't remember the number. No, not that one either. Oh, yeah, that's this one. It's not loud enough. Just giving a little bit. So you see, it's not exactly the original one, but that's still something usable, and that's really some kind of manipulation. And then you really hear. So you really can play it. And going that direction, you can do also so the same technique. So where instead of analyzing a simple sound with one frequency, I can do. Oh, sorry, I have a stack note. Are you? Or do some all the other. Well, maybe. I should have named better. Yeah. So that's really close to the spirit of the Malling phrases, but with a little girl speaking can get you out of my head.
Can't get you out of my head. Can't get you out of my head.
So what I wanted to show also quickly, I don't know how much time I have. So that's fine. So we are now within the Continuum. So you see we are live connected to it. So in the EaganMatrix, so you see the preset is very simple. It's mainly one additive bank. By the way, if you want to experiment with the additive bank now, never use two at the same time, just use one. I had a very bad experience at Super with it does reset the full memory of the Continuum. So it will be fixed, but just wait a little bit before using two at the same time. Anyway. So this is the bank itself. I'm going to just to quickly explain what it is. So and you see here I have a noise feeding a filter, and that is that noise from that filter which is input of the additive bank, meaning that the noise we were talking about may be a real white noise. It can be a filter noise, or it can maybe whatever you want to experiment with. The result may be weird, interesting, or not. But that's also one interesting point. You hear that's the level of noise. So. Without any noise. So that's something you really you can play here. Here you see it's nearly a white noise, not exactly, but you can. That's something you can play with. Just to be back on not the expectation. Yeah. So maybe it's a bit. So this is additive bank. So. The first thing you have as input here is the noise, so that's where you're going to input your noise. The second input is the frequency, so that's the way you tune your partials. I will be back on the two other on the two red columns. There's a noise threshold, so you can give a threshold, a level, when the partial goes on under that level, instead of being played as partial is going to be placed by the noise. So you keep the level of the partial from the analysis, but instead of playing a note, you play a noise. So that's for sound manipulation too. you have the center of the partial. So instead, you can decide so you have all these partials. Usually, the first one is a fundamental, but you can decide to start from any other one in the analysis. So kind of changing the fundamental, not really, but the first partial which is going to be played can be shifted. And you can also have two index in the 512 slots. And when you have two of them, this specific center can be used. It's going to be replaced by a partial interpolation. So you will have two different slots. For example, you're on slot 1, another one is on slot 100, and you can interpolate between them directly without having to go through all the intermediate partials. So still for some experiment and some manipulation. The I column is very important because this is the one which is going to allow you to walk through all the 512 slots. So when I'm scrubbing, I'm mainly going from 0 to 1 on that I column. And then you have the spectral formant dilatation, which is also so we apply a formant, but then why just keeping that formant? We could change a little bit the formant, compress it, I mean having the spectral rows small, closer to each other, or widen it, or move it across whatever. So you have a dilatation, possible dilatation of the formant. So the first SF red input can be either spread frequency, either quadratic spread frequency. The spread frequency is the fact that you want to stay in one single frequency, whatever the evolution of the partial are. So if we have a partial where the knot is changing, you can ask that the knot is going to stay at the same level, the one which is required by the F column. I will show it. And the quadratic frequency is really the way you're going to you have to rate it. It's a way to spread this frequency, and that's one other sound manipulation you have. And the second, PA here column you have, which is also that you can manipulate the prune additive. So I said you can start from any partial and skip the first one, but same thing, you can do the same thing from the other side, so avoid the higher partial. You can manipulate the amplitude, so the first one is spread amplitude, so you can narrow the dispersion of amplitude or and enhance it. You have I said some, the deviation frequency is the one I was talking about before, so sorry, I mixed up things. And the interpolation index is, so when you use that one, that means that you are using two different points, as I was explaining before, in the analysis, and jump from one to the other without having to go through all the other one. Maybe I can give you some examples. So if you take so we have that. So it's not on the specific node. So now, if I go to deviation frequency here, so I change it. I put here, so it's at 1, so I still have. But if I drive it down to 0, so that's one single pitch. So if I want to play with this and I kind of have a loop around this voice, it's going to be it gives you stability of the pitch, and it can be any value intermediate. So small variation up to full variation. And
Can you do more than one?
Sorry?
I'll play with it.
This is the spectral manipulation of the formant. And there's a specific value, -1, where there is no formant applied. So this is the original one. So if I pitch up, I will get the chipmunk effect. This is a partial start. But I changed the preset, so it's not working anymore. So no partial. So that's still the same voice, but I have skipped the first partial, so the reference frequency. And same thing, I can have a number of partial, so that I'm at the maximum. That's easy. And as everything inside the EaganMatrix, you can manipulate everything in real time. So it's just a few examples of things you can do. You see it's quite a lot of sophisticated parameter, but the idea is really that you are going to not play it as it is, but manipulate that and not use only the additive bank, but use filters, use waveguide, use model synthesis, whatever, combined with oscillators, and that's where the fun is going to be. So here, that's one of the voice. So now it's in pitch. So. That's one of the possible examples. There are a lot of them. This is a. This one I did just while we were at Superboost. I took a Fairlight. There is a very famous sample which is named Sarah in the Fairlight. I just put an analysis of it, and so now you can play Fairlight and the Sarah song. It's a little bit manipulated, but that's something you can do. I guess I'm close to the.
That noise component. That's the thing that's. Cool.
Yeah.
Other additive synthesis wouldn't be able to replicate.
What portions? That would not be possible. So it's 58, so I'm stopping now. I can, of course, get a few questions. And
is the Boris for Max interface available somewhere, or did you put that together?
All the example, the analysis tool. If you want it, just mail me. I will send it to you. And, yeah.
Yeah, he put a lot of work into Loris, which is a very pretty C++ program, but to make it compatible with Max, he did a lot of work to make it real time. So do you plan? Line jumping. Do you plan to keep a software version, like a Max or computer-based version, so that people can play longer analyses and that sort of thing?
Yeah, most probably yes. In my copious free time, most probably not in Max. I mean, probably we need to go into some juice environment or somewhere, something like this. I mean,
as a software,
I will ask for help from maybe friends, because that's the time. I mean, the technical work is done. You know it, and so there's going to be the UI time, and also this small tool. I want to make a simplified version and finalize it, but myself, I have a hard time choosing what are the meaningful parameters. I know some are very important, but maybe they are important for myself and not for others. I'm too deeply inside, so I'm yeah.
Historically, too, the biggest additive analysis tool that's out there has 62 parameters, and if you're searching in a 62-dimensional space for the sweet spot, turns out that's very hard. So we put a lot of years of effort to get down to this number, and now you're, I think you're doing great.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Interstellar.
Yeah, exactly.
So, question.
Yeah, sure.
Audio dilation is a term I'm familiar with, but I was wondering what does it mean by spectral dilation?
Spectral?
Spectral dilatation or
Dilation.
dilation?
So,
That was back a couple of slides.
yeah. So we have it spread frequency. So here I have the spectral dilatation. It's not hooked up in here. So if I put a formula, this is a result of it, but that's really, you're spreading the frequency. So you can spread either the frequency, either the amplitude, either both of them at the same time. So the result will not be faithful to the original.
Have you played with the volume series?
Yeah.
So there's one of them where you can make it for a cartoon voice.
Yeah.
That's spectral dimensions.
Yeah.
See, here he's playing a very specific single thing, so you hear what it's actually doing, but then it's hard to tell what we're doing context. But yeah, that cartoon voice is spectral dimension.
Okay. Any other questions?
Could you?
Thank you, Christophe. Oh,
Well, I just want to ask, like, so with that raw sonic material, could you then map, if there's something that had a specific characteristic, and you think, well, I like to maybe map this to my Z, you know? It just, you can do it the same as any other fashion in the editor, right? So
Yeah, you can map. You have the full once you're here, you have the full EaganMatrix, so you can really do whatever we want. You know, I was just editing that one, just put a Z here on it, and now I. So I just did the map to Z from that parameter, but that can be whatever you want to an oscillator to, and yeah, it can. I haven't even tried it yet inside, but if you want to do some frequency modulation, any kind of, you can cross it really. That's one we don't often mention it, but one very important thing in the matrix is you can cross a set of different synthesis together. So you can put model plus analysis plus waveguide and put all them together. Most physical modeling stuff are very specialized. This one is a generic tool, and you can really put whatever you want with whatever you want.